Hello and welcome to Pearl Magazine's special coverage in the Philippines of the 2022 presidential elections. With voting just over a week away, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos, the son and namesake of the former president who was ousted and exiled from power almost 40 years ago, maintains a wide lead over the other 9 candidates. We take a look at how he's managed to gain such wide support from the grassroots population in the country. It is the usual suspects of a Philippine presidential election. A former movie star, former senator, world-famous boxer, current vice president, and the son of a former president. Nothing unusual except this time, the son of the president is none other than Ferdinand Marcos Jr., more commonly known by his nickname Bongbong or BBM.
Basta't walang iwanan! Basta't nagkakaisa!
Bongbong Marcos announced his candidacy last October. In November, surveys showed his support among voters ranging from 53 to 56%, with his closest contender, the current vice president, at 20%.
BBM po. BBM? Bakit si BBM? Mas gusto ko po siya kaysa sa ibang. Bait po siya, makatao. BBM, siyempre!
By January, surveys showed him at 60 to 64%, and by mid-March, he settled around 50%.
It's the Marcoses who have created the well-oiled social media machinery. And with that, they can now dictate the content. The truth is spreading through word of mouth. But Marcos is in control of the public address system. So if they say that the Marcos era is the golden era of the Philippines, then that's how most of the Filipinos would take that information, even if it is a lie.
Election watchers all comment that social media has had much influence on voters' sentiment in the country.
While he was protesting his 2016 VP loss, their messaging was on point. They crafted the right mix of spite and inspiration. The results speak for themselves. You train hard, you win easy.
President po si BBM.
BBM? Bakit si BBM?
Kasi ang sabi daw po kasi nung nag-martial law daw po noon, yung mga bibilin, hindi naman daw po tumaas noon. Tapos yung mga sa mga Meralco, yung mga ganon.
Matalino si Marcos eh. Pero yung iba talagang wala namang pinanggalingan eh. Kundi, alam mo na, kanya-kanyang kuha lang yan.
Ferdinand Marcos, father of the current contender, was president of the Philippines from 1965 until he was ousted by the People Power Revolution in 1986. A martial law was declared in 1972, while spending and debt continued to grow, along with social unrest. In 1975, the country's external debt was at $4.1 billion. By 1982, it was a whopping $24.4 billion. 80-year-old Caridad Laconsay voted for Marcos Sr. and says she will be voting for his son in 9 days.
Ano yung nagawa mo nung martial law noon? Kamusta yung buhay noon, Nay?
Well, okay naman kami noon. Kasi hindi naman talaga mahigpit doon eh. Nung may martial, no? Magaan ang buhay. Naniniwala ako. Kasi marami rin nagsasalita na ganun-ganun. Pero actually, hindi ko naman nakikita. Bali-balita lang.
Those are all part of the brainwashing. President Marcos declared martial law because of the peace and order. It's good. Because that the communists are coming in already. When he declared martial law, it was peaceful. And they were all jailed. Almost all the commanders, the leaders of the Communist Party are jailed.
Pagpasok namin, oh my God, we started hearing screams. Everybody, people would be screaming, young people would be screaming in pain. Kaya torture chamber na nga eh.
Back in the 1970s during martial law, Etta Rosales, known as Etta, was a history professor and activist with the Humanist League, a group aligned with the Philippine Communist Party. She was arrested in 1976. She says she was severely tortured as agents tried to get names of fellow activists.
Sabi nila, anything can happen to you here. Not even Marcos knows that you're here. You can be killed. He'll never know. They'll never know.
Etta says she was stripped of her clothes, waterboarded, and choked with a leather belt. They also played Russian roulette during the interrogation.
Sa loob ko, kung binaril nila ako, di wala na. All that they want to get, confession, and then the names, madi-default sila. Wala sila makukuha. Sabi kong ganon. Electric shock. Ay, yun ang grabe. They tied wires around your fingers. They tied wires around the feet, the toes pala. So, fingers and toes. And yung voltage na, todo-todo na yan. Nag-tremble yung aking katawan. It was no longer able to control itself. I could no longer control myself. They knew exactly the voltage, the level of voltage that is necessary for you not to die naman. Naked ka na riyan, gano'n, And then, pagkatapos nun, in term na lupang-lupa na yung katawan ko, It was really lampay na, nawala na. And I could not stand up anymore. Kasi mga lalaki, yung mga gente, they go on top of you, molest you, etc. Biglang papasok yung officers. And then, tindigan silang lahat. Tapos they cover me with my blanket. So I knew, nako, meron palang unofficial torture.
At some point, Etta says she realized some of her torturers were her students.
When I was being tortured, sabi ng mga ahente, yan ang mapapala mo. Kasi binagsak mo ko eh. Oh my God, sabi ko, mga estudyante ko pala itong mga ito na nag-enroll sa akin. Para bilang ahente, para magsumbong, gano'n.
She was eventually moved to another location, and a month or so later, the officers were ready to release her with this advice.
Pero mayroon silang sinabi, sabi nila, Etta, ano kaya? Huwag ka nang mag-underground. Huwag ka nang mag-underground. Kasi pag mag-underground ka, walang makakakita sa'yo. Papatayin ka lang walang nakakaalam sa'yo. You see, my father belonged to the military. He belonged to the Navy. And he was the first one, intelligence chief. Kaya that is the irony of everything. Siya yung nagtayo ng intelligence, which was now torturing me. Kaya ang sabi nila sa akin, ikaw taksil ka sa tatay mo. That is why, when they finally released me, they took that into consideration, siguro, na anak ito ng chief natin, dating chief natin. Ayun.
In 2013, the Philippine government acknowledged abuses to more than 11,000 victims out of 75,000 claimants. The settlement awarded $190 million, which was funded from the nearly $700 million found in Marcos's secret Swiss bank accounts that had been handed over to the country in 1995. After authorities established it had been plundered from the Philippine treasury. Since the 1986 People Power Revolution, Etta has served as a congresswoman 3 times, as well as chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights in the Philippines. Today, 64-year-old Bongbong Marcos looks set to win the May 9th elections, possibly with the widest margin and highest vote percentage since democratic elections were restored to the Philippines in 1986.
The recognition that his father's era was the golden era it doesn't come from us. It's coming from the ordinary folks. They do their own research. And they get materials from social media, apart from textbooks. It's all there. It's all there. So we are not the source of whatever allegation that they're throwing our way regarding fake news.
I think it will be difficult for him to hang on to power. People who vote for Marcos don't I don't think voted for Marcos because they want martial law back. So they'll want to see that. They'll want to see more infrastructure. They'll want to see more policemen in the streets. They'll want to see more law and order, right?
One of the biggest issues for Filipinos today is economic recovery from the pandemic, as it has created more poverty and joblessness. Spokesman Vic Rodriguez says that if Bongbong wins, unity will indeed be the key to coming out of the pandemic.
So we are still very much in the middle of the pandemic. We will pull through. And that is why his call for unity comes into the fore. It's important because we cannot get out of this pandemic if we will not be united, if we will not get our acts together, and if we will not move forward headed towards one direction. When asked whether he would even consider some of his rivals or those belonging to different political color or different political orientation, and his reply is constant. For as long as you're qualified and you have shown and manifested love of country and you're willing to work for the government and willing to work for the benefit of the Filipino people, you are certainly most welcome.
More when we return. Stay with us.